The arrival of 50 white South African refugees in the United States on May 12, 2025, signals a vital shift toward correcting a profound imbalance in American refugee policy. These Afrikaners, fleeing systemic oppression under South Africa's black-led government, represent the promise of a policy prioritizing white refugees who share Western values. For decades, the U.S. has admitted black refugees from Africa through fraudulent programs that enable an invasion of the nation. These migrants, incompatible with American culture, undermine national stability, while white South Africans offer a chance to strengthen it. The call for refugee equity and equality, favoring white refugees from South Africa and beyond while halting fake black refugees, is critical to preserving the nation's heritage. This article advocates for a strategic plan to resettle oppressed white South Africans, exposes the deliberate importation of criminal black migrants, and envisions a global strategy to protect white populations. The White South African Refugee Initiative. On February 7, 2025, an executive order prioritized the resettlement of white South Africans facing racial persecution. On May 12, 2025, 50 Afrikaners arrived at Washington Dulles International Airport, including families with diverse backgrounds, such as farmers and other professionals. After a rigorous application process lasting many months, they were resettled in states like Minnesota, Idaho, and New York, receiving federal support for housing and employment. These refugees, contributors to South Africa's economy, bring skills and cultural values aligned with America's founding principles. Their resettlement is a response to their dire circumstances, long ignored by global institutions, and a step toward refugee equity. South Africa, once a model of white achievement, has collapsed under black governance. The Expropriation Act of January 2025 targets white-owned land, threatening to dismantle the economic foundation built by whites. Farm attacks, a campaign of violence, see black perpetrators murdering white families with impunity. Official reports cite 225 farm killings from 2020 to 2024, but these figures, manipulated by a corrupt regime, understate the crisis. Whites, only 7.3% of South Africa's 60 million, face existential threats in a nation they civilized. The U.S., alongside other white nations, must develop plans to resettle all 4.4 million white South Africans, prioritizing those oppressed and willing to relocate to America, with the hope that others will follow. Their contributions will bolster the economy, while their shared heritage will reinforce cultural identity, advancing refugee equality. The fraudulent black refugee invasion. The U.S. refugee program has been corrupted, serving as a conduit for black Africans who invade the nation under false pretenses. In 2024, a U.S. agency reported 100,034 refugees admitted, including 34,017 from Africa. These numbers, deliberately undercounted, fail to capture the true scale of black migration through sham programs designed to overwhelm America. Unlike white South Africans, who endure thorough vetting, many black refugees are flown directly from Africa without scrutiny, often expedited by the Biden administration. Alarmingly, some were selected for their criminal backgrounds: radicals, terrorists, murderers, and thieves, imported to destabilize the nation. President Trump has halted this dangerous policy and is now identifying and removing these criminal black migrants who have infiltrated the country. Black Africans have no need to cross oceans as fake refugees. They have an entire continent with numerous black-led countries, such as Nigeria, Kenya, or Ghana, where they can relocate. They can also migrate to regions like South Asia or elsewhere without burdening America. Some arrive independently, borrowing money or paying smugglers, but these resources would be better spent improving their lives in Africa, where they belong. Their presence in America strains resources, increases crime, and undermines cultural cohesion, offering no benefit. In contrast, white South Africans bring value, making their resettlement a priority for achieving refugee equity and equality. South Africa's collapse. A cautionary tale. South Africa's history warns of the perils of misguided concessions. Under apartheid, whites, 15% of the population, controlled 87% of the land, creating a thriving economy that benefited even the black majority. Their efforts built a modern state. Yet, in the 1980s and 1990s, white leaders, swayed by globalist pressures and tactics from America's civil rights era, relinquished power to the African National Congress in 1994. The black majority, unprepared for governance, plunged the nation into chaos. Corruption eroded the economy, and violence became endemic. Whites, now 7.3%, are scapegoats for black failures, their land and lives stolen in a relentless purge. Julius Malema, leader of the economic freedom fighters, exemplifies this hostility, his chants of "kill the Boer, kill the farmer" broadcast as a call for violence. South Africa's 26,000 murders in 2024 disproportionately target whites, with official data obscured to conceal the genocide. Blacks, 80% of the population, lack the capacity to sustain what whites built, their resentment fueling a campaign to erase our people. The ANC's land policies, disguised as reform, aim to destroy white communities. The US and other white nations must establish plans to resettle oppressed white South Africans, ensuring their safety and contributions are preserved, a cornerstone of refugee equality. The global threat to white populations. South Africa's crisis is part of a broader assault on white populations, driven by shadowy globalist forces. These entities have manipulated US refugee policy to admit black Africans, weakening the nation's resolve. The program, influenced by organizations with hidden agendas, prioritizes these invaders over white refugees, reflecting a strategy to erode white influence. Black migrants, often criminal elements, are tools in this scheme, their presence sowing division. From South Africa's killing fields to America's streets, the pattern is clear, a coordinated effort to dismantle Western civilization. The response must be resolute, admit only white refugees, starting with South Africans and extending to white populations worldwide, to rebuild national strength. The 50 Afrikaners are a vanguard, igniting a movement for refugee equity. Beyond resettlement, white nations must unite to address the South African crisis, preparing to reclaim lost territories where white ingenuity can restore order. This counters the globalist agenda, ensuring the survival of our values and people. Refugee equality, white refugees over black invaders, is the foundation of this vision, securing a future for those who belong in America. Conclusion. The resettlement of 50 white South African refugees in 2025 is a triumphant stride toward refugee equity and equality. America must reject black African invaders, whose fraudulent refugee status, facilitated by undercounted numbers and lax vetting, masks an assault on the nation. The 34,017 black refugees reported in 2024 are a fraction of the true invasion, demanding deportation to Africa, where they have countless countries to call home. White South Africans, with their skills and cultural affinity, must be welcomed through strategic plans to resettle the oppressed and willing among the 4.4 million, ideally drawing others to America. South Africa's collapse under black misrule proves coexistence is impossible. The global assault on white populations, driven by hidden forces, will be met with resolve. By championing white refugees and forging a united front, America can restore its heritage, secure its future, and lead a movement for a world where white contributions are honored. The time for action is now, with every white South African welcomed as a step toward justice.